Welcome to GenZ Talks. This is your host, Ryan Solomon, the head of community and content at Entre. At Entre, we built a social network for entrepreneurs, investors, creators, and freelancers. Every week, this show is recorded live on Entre, and I get to interview the most ambitious and young entrepreneurs and investors from around the world. And if you'd like to be a part of our next episode of GenZ Talks, maybe even get to come up on stage and ask a question, make sure to head over to joinentre.com and register for GenZ Talks. Now that that's out of the way, it's time to kick things off. Let's go. Today, I have one of my best friends on for the pod, Ryan Myher. So he's been a friend for the past 3.5-4 years. We actually met indirectly through Entre and through Michael, our CEO, Michael Mara. And I'm super excited for this podcast because he's one of the scrappiest people I've ever met. And I'm just thrilled. So I'm super happy we became friends. And I want you to kind of give yourself a quick introduction of who you are, what you're doing, and we're kind of going to go through a little bit of your story and then kind of where you are now with Fable. So if you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll jump into it.
Yeah. I'm Ryan. I'm not an engineer by any means. So I'd like to just preface by saying that. I do build with no code, but my background's traditionally like growth and marketing, strategy, business ops, things like that. And that kind of fits into what I'm building now. But yeah, I've been building since I was like 18. And I got introduced to the world of no code and then really started building. I've built and sold 2 small online businesses, and I dropped out of college to lead growth at a Jason Calacanis back company called V1, where in the 8 months that I was there, I took them from about 700 signups to over 12,000 and generated a couple $100K in new ARR. And then left that, started doing freelancing, was trying to figure things out, and that kind of leads me to where I am today with Fable. Me and my co-founders, Armand and Bruhu, also very bright people. We've kind of been going through iterations and stuff. And my role there is CMO / operations shared with Bruhu.
Amazing. So I'm super excited to dive into it. I want to start kind of where you started. Because I know, obviously, you're from Johnstown, PA, which you can touch on a little bit. And then you can also touch on, I know you said you were doing a lot of things in crypto really before everyone else was doing a lot of things. I don't even remember all the different projects and things you were working on. So if you want to touch a little bit on the stuff you were working on, and then we're going to dive into what you were doing at Duquesne.
Yeah. So from Johnstown, PA, it was always a good time. What kind of got me started with things was in like 2016, whenever Facebook Marketplace originally launched, I started selling my old stuff because traditionally I had a job. I was working at Subway, but I tore my ACL dunking on a kid in basketball. And so I could no longer work at Subway. So I was like, how can I make money? And that was making people come to my house to buy my old shit. So then people started like asking me, can you sell me this for me? Can you sell that for me? And then I started taking commission. So I made my first couple $1,000s, and what kind of like led my first like path into like finance. So then I started swing trading Canadian marijuana stocks.
Can I ask why specifically Canadian marijuana stocks?
Well, I was just like bullish on marijuana stocks in general, and I just happened to like fall into like I guess it's like similar to kind of crypto, right? Where like you fall into like these little worlds, like whether it be DeFi or DSO, whatever. So yeah, I was particularly interested in them, and so that's how I made my first $10,000, and that was like pretty cool because that was unheard of. And so then I kind of went off to college, and I started. I was on the founding team of 2 different crypto projects. The first being Bitcoin Stash, which was a hard fork off of Bitcoin Cash. Basically, our thesis was, as like different coins were hard forking from Bitcoin, they were stealing more and more of like the hashing power. And so we kind of assumed at some point it put Bitcoin at a greater risk of a 51% attack. So we wanted to better distribute that hashing power. So Bitcoin Stash was basically, it would allow you to merge mine with Bitcoin ABC and Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin SV and Bitcoin at the same time using the same amount of hashing power. So you could get the rewards for both without having to pick one or the other. That was pretty cool. We actually ended up having the second highest hashing rate out of all SHA-256D algo coins, which was a pretty cool thing at the time. It's just like the hashing algorithm Bitcoin uses, and like all of those like proof of work coins. But and then after that, we kind of moved into WarriHash, which was a decentralized hash exchange. So you may have heard of like NiceHash, right? It was a centralized exchange where you could buy and sell like your computing power for people to mine like cryptos with. But then somebody hacked like their centralized wallet that all the transactions would go through and stole like 80 mil. And we're like, if we just like, it was just ironic because like the whole concept of Bitcoin is it to be like this distributed thing. And then, you have these like centralized platforms built around it. So we built like the first peer-to-peer hash exchange, raised a little bit of pre-seed funding, and it ran for a good 2.5 years, but then I quit doing that. And that's whenever I kind of got into the no code space.
Love that. And so that would have been probably like your sophomore year at that time?
Freshman, sophomore year. Yeah.
Freshman, sophomore year. No, I'm super jealous because I really wasn't exposed to crypto like probably until my junior year of college, so maybe sophomore, junior year. And like, I don't think I was exposed to where like probably the same level of exposure where I was just like, all right, Bitcoin, Ethereum, got it. Cool. I'm going to throw in some money. I'm going to keep dollar cost averaging, which I mean like that worked, like I'm not mad about that. But I do wish I kind of had that similar experience to you where like you were on the grounds trying to move fast and break things.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of pushed upon, right? It was like at the time we were like we were managing a small crypto fund. We had like 40 investors, me and my friend Evan Gruce. And then we were on a podcast. It was called I don't remember the name of the podcast, but basically one of the listeners of it, his name was Umpai K. Kurakawa. He was a brilliant man from Carnegie Mellon, and he reached out and was like, we had this idea, or I had this idea, like, do you think, like, basically gave us like this task of writing like a 5-page report on, at the time it was Monero. It was a hard fork off Monero called Monero Zero. And so we wrote this report. He was impressed. And then realized that we didn't want to do Monero Zero, but like that we all wanted to work together. So it was cool.
It's funny how those things happen.
Yeah. But I definitely wouldn't have gotten as deep as I did if it weren't for like him pushing, right?
100%. That makes a lot of sense. So like putting yourself around the people that are actually gonna push you. And it's funny, I was talking to Turk before this, one of our mutual friends, and he was just saying that like good friends will push you and also call you out on your bullshit. I think, which it's timely. It's very timely.
Very timely.
Yeah, so I thought it was great for him to say that. But yeah, so then the next thing I did want to jump into is before we get into no code, I remember when we met that you had a startup that was, I can't remember the life of me what it was called, but it was like a bar and club related startup. That's the first thing I remember you building. And I was like, this is pretty cool. Yeah. And then what was that? I want you to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. So that was kind of my break into no code. That was the second name was called Evita. Originally it started as any of you that are familiar with Glide apps, basically like people in Pittsburgh, like people party at houses, right? There's not like frat houses where you're like, oh, I'm going to SAE. It's like people like rent homes and then that's where you go party. So I created an app called Fucked Up. And basically people would put their addresses and like people kind of could check in and stuff. And so, so I went down to the dining hall and then I made it and I just like airdropped it to people. And I've got a couple hundred people using it that night. And it was, I went to a house party that night and they were like, why is there so many people at this house and stuff? And I was like, probably because of the app. And they're like, oh, you're the guy with the app. And I was like, fuck yeah.
That little moment, like being able to flex it, like, yeah, this is me. I love that. So, and then kind of to backtrack a little bit. So you said you built that on Glide, right? And then
that was like the bare bones Glad or that was like the first iteration of their product. Like I was like one of their first 5 paying customers.
okay, you're an OG. So I want you to touch on like how you kind of got into this no code journey, and then kind of like where it started, and then we're gonna dive a little bit further into no code, no problem, and where that goes. So like kind of like what introduced you to no code and what got you excited.
Yeah, I guess like the first touch of no code was I was building AI jobs list, which was like built on WordPress. But like it wasn't even really no code. It ended up being mostly code. So whenever I was in college, I like basically hired like this PHP dev off of Upwork to like build most of it. And so that was kind of like the first thing that I built like with kind of no code. And then I got a Facebook ad about Glide, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm just going to bookmark it, and like maybe I'll need it sometime. And that's kind of how that happened. Fell into the rabbit hole of the world of no code, and was following people like Ben Tossell and Joe Brown on Twitter, and was just kind of following the space for a while. And then I decided like that's whenever I wanted to break into it. And I was falling asleep one night, and the word or like the phrase "no code, no problem" like came to me, and I messaged Joe that night. Then I was like, should I start this? And he's like, do it. Why not? And then the rest is kind of history.
That's awesome. And I want you to kind of touch a little bit on what no code, no problem is. I mean, explain how it started, because it's a little bit more than a podcast. You've got a couple of things cooking up with that, but I think it's mostly known for the podcast.
Yeah, definitely the podcast is like the number one thing. We do events as well. Basically like the idea behind it is like just like informing. Like you'd be surprised how many people have no idea what like no code is, or like that you can build way more complex things now without actually writing any physical code. So it's just kind of like the education piece, right? And like the real like kind of story behind that is I hate newsletters, right? Like I despise newsletters. So I was like, but I also hate podcasts. And I was like, because this is the problem. Either newsletters clutter your inbox, and podcasts are always too long. So I was like, why don't I make a short form podcast that kind of serves as an audio newsletter? And I thought that was something that I would really enjoy. And so I did, and it kind of like picked up, and I think it like kind of really resonated with people, like the authenticity, like the raw, and like just like, you know, getting those like bite-sized pieces of information and learning about tools and what people are building and stuff in the space in like that short period of time, like while they're working out, or like, you know, like people like to binge listen too. So it's pretty easy to binge listen, you know, 20 episodes.
And I think 2 things. I think you really harp on it well. Is like, yeah, I agree with you. Newsletters clutter your inbox. Literally, the podcast that I listened to today, I didn't even finish.
Yeah,
right? And
exactly.
Once that happens, I'm like, am I really gonna restart, or am I really gonna go back and try to figure out where I was? Probably not, unless it was like that good. Yep. So I think that's a really good tactic. And then I had another point on top of that, and also one other thing that I just thought of while you were explaining that is like, for example, Facebook is actually putting in a new feature where it's not just like what's the word I'm looking for? Like they're putting in a timers/reminders for you to take breaks. So like instead of you putting limits necessarily on your Facebook usage, you could be like, just give me a break like every 10 minutes of time if I use it. So like if you use it for 10 minutes, I'll be like, hey, go take a walk. Right? Or go relax. Like don't use it, right? Which I think is really interesting and really smart. So it makes them look not as shitty, in my opinion. But so I think that's a really good part. And I want you to also touch on like, I think one thing that people don't realize, and I didn't realize this until I met you, is you don't need a huge audience to monetize something.
No, not at all.
And I want you to kind of explain that with no code, no problem, and how you don't have any funding. You just have like literally a website and you've met some people. Like I kind of want you to touch on like how you've monetized the podcast, the events, and like everything else with just yourself. It's not like you have a team or anything. It's just you explain.
Yeah. Well, I did have a team very briefly, but we're not going to get into that.
We know that.
Well, it was like the acquisition.
Oh yeah, okay,
yeah. But yeah, that's not so important. That's a different story for a different time. But yeah, no, I mean, any advice that I give to anybody that wants to start a podcast is, or like anything in particular, like a podcast, it's, you know, a lot of people like want to start something like where they think people just want to hear them talk. And like people don't really give a shit about what you're saying 99% of the time. So it's really easy to monetize whenever you're super niche, right? Like, because like some people will say, okay, I want to start a podcast in like tech, right? But that's still way too broad. Like you have to pick like a vertical within technology, because like then it is way easier to monetize, but especially whenever you don't have a ton of listeners. Because it's basically like you can go to any company and like they know that your audience, like even though it's not tens of thousands of people, is exactly who they're selling to. And so they know anytime they put money towards you, they're like, they know that that money is going to go towards the exact people without having to like test ads and all that other stuff. It's like anytime like Adalo, Bubble, any of these no code builders, like they want to throw money at something, they know if they want to get in front of the people that are going to be building, they're going to get in front of the no code no problems audience. And so that makes monetizing really easy. I started monetizing like off of like episode 6, right? So I don't even know how many downloads I had at the time, but it was quite literally me just emailing. Like I emailed Emmanuel from Bubble. He told me no. I emailed Jeremy from Adalo and then like another guy, but Jeremy got back to me right before Christmas of 2019, and he gave me the first yes, and it was a really amazing time. It was like a burst of energy, and it made things feel real, especially because whenever I started it, my family, friends, my girlfriend at the time, like nobody knew I started it. It was like I just ran it for like a good 2 months, completely silent, and just promoted it on Twitter to see if like it was something people actually wanted to listen to without like it being skewed by family listening just because it's me.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with that too. And that relates to me on TikTok, you know, because like my friends and fam are just like, they don't get it, you know, when you're creating content, it's such like a weird thing for people that like aren't on that side of things. And also I think another thing that people don't realize is I've seen you record these podcasts. Like when you said they're raw, do you even use a mic? Because I've seen you do it with just your phone.
Well, so now I use this. This is my mic. This literally. And I've never once, actually that's a lie, but like, okay, but technically I've never edited an episode ever. I've never once edited, like I've never made myself sound better. I've never removed anything. The only time I had to like change the intro one time, but that was like my screw up. So other than that, I've never touched the audio. Yep.
And I think that's so important too, because a lot of people think that they need like to start a podcast, like they need a microphone, they need editing software, they need like a crazy graphic, they need all, like based off of what I've seen from you, I think starting off with a very niche audience is definitely the way to go, unless you have like just a bunch of money and you already have a bunch of influence, you know, like then you can do whatever you want. But
it's just a matter of if what you're talking about is interesting enough. Yeah, people will listen. They don't care.
And I think there's a lot of room within, like I think if you even like saying Web3, like I mean you could do a Web3 podcast, I think it would kill. But like I even think doing something like just on DAOs, that's a killer. That right there, that's a killer podcast, because then especially with all this operating systems that you're seeing, like Utopia Labs, like Kaido, Wonderverse, and all these other startups that are coming up within the DAO space, like they would be your prime people that will 100% pay for ad space on your podcast. You know what? GenZ Talks, we're wrapping it up. We're gonna do Sally Talks DAOs next week. Honestly, maybe I will. We'll see.
There's like you could like have so many like fun twists on it. Like Michelle Quinn in our like Floodgate group for she said, "Where art thou, Romeo?"
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of ways that you can run it. And I think DAO or just DAO it. You know,
down bad. That's another. Dude, yeah, like so many twists.
anyone who's listening in on Entre Live right now, if you guys have any ideas for my DAO podcast, please drop them in the chat. Maybe I will do it. We'll see. But I already definitely listened to the interview with Kaido from the last episode. That one's actually really, really good. Kaido's freaking awesome. I know Ryan, I know you're already friends with him. But before we're gonna jump back to you and not go down the literal Web3 rabbit, literally the Web3 rabbit. I mean, maybe we will. Maybe we'll touch on it a little bit. So to recap, grew up in Johnstown, did some crypto stuff freshman year, then Yovita, Glide, joined V1 and scaled. I want you to touch a little bit on how you went about doing that in growth and scaling within the no-code space.
Yeah. So just a little context. Basically, what happened was I was running No Code No Problem. The founder of V1 had a podcast. He hit me up and asked me to be on it. So I was on it. By the end of it, he asked me if I wanted a job to drop out of college. So I was like, absolutely. I wanted to drop out anyhow.
And that's where I touched on that too.
Yeah. So I dropped out. I joined V1. I was the first and only marketing hire at the time. I think I joined, there was 6, 7 employees. So very early stage. They were finishing up the Jason Calacanis launch program. So funding on the way. They had like some existing like customers and stuff. So whenever I joined, it was basically like we were really trying to decide on like that customer archetype and like kind of how we wanted to reach people. And so, yeah, so basically like what we did was we decided that that archetype consisted of like anyone between the ages of like 17 to like 30 who have that billion-dollar app idea that they've always wanted to build, but bug their technical friends to build for them. And so, yeah, that's kind of, once we had that, then it was a matter of like, where do these people reside, right? So the 2 main places that we realized were Quora and TikTok. Obviously, you know, Twitter is my like bread and butter, so I did a bit of Twitter as well. But so from a TikTok perspective, we didn't actually run any paid ads in terms of like their actual ads manager, but we did like influencer campaigns with influencers like Colin Castrina. And I think our budget there in total was like $600-700. And that was, the ROI on that was pretty insane. In fact, it actually broke our onboarding at one point. And then Quora, yeah, we were running Quora ads to Wix and Square, like people that followed the Wix and Squarespace topics on Quora. And our cost per click, I want to say, was like 5 or 6 cents, which is pretty damn good. So those were like the 2 avenues in which we like grew from 700 to 12K. Those were the 2 main ones. And like Twitter was like another third one.
And the 2 things I love about both of those is, one thing that people don't realize, like, I mean, obviously you can create pretty good ads and ad copy, but there's definitely some nuance to it, especially with Facebook ads. Like if you're trying to create like an actual video or a graphic and you want to do it right and you want to get really low cost per clicks, like it's not a simple thing. And that's why I do love influencer marketing. So for us, it's like, let's pay influencers to make the videos for us and then let's run ads behind that.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of similar. You guys didn't actually end up going through and running ads for that, but I'm sure they would have done extremely well. But I wish you touch on Quora a little bit more too.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be quite fair, like like my thought process behind that when like trying to like lead growth was, you know, you have a couple competitors coming right now. It's like everyone thinks of the same standard things. They think Facebook ads. So it's like, where are like the other people that don't even know what no code is, you know? And that was kind of what we were trying to go for. But Quora, yeah, Quora is actually a beautiful thing in terms of like running ads, because it's like very simple. The ads that we would run were based around quite literally a question and an answer, because they want it to look native to like the Quora experience. So it doesn't necessarily look like an ad. It just looks like another question and another answer. So whenever we were running these ads to like Wix and Squarespace users, it was like the best ad that we ran was quite literally like build an app as easy as using Wix. Like build a mobile app as easy as using Wix, because we were targeting those types of people. They are familiar with the tool, they know they could build. But like it was still like foreign to them to be able to build like mobile apps. You know?
Exactly. And I think that's really smart, because like for me, if I think I put that almost, because I've done a bunch of video editing and stuff. Like if I was searching on Quora or literally anywhere online, like how to, and then like insert how to color grade on Final Cut, for example. Right? If I was searching on how to color grade and then I get hit with an ad that's like, hey, this is the easiest video editing software, like edit something in 5 minutes. Now I would be like, that's way less time than me trying to figure out how to color grade. 100%. Right? Or like finding like that's a really, really good spot. And I think like Quora might be very, very undervalued. I also think Pinterest is really undervalued too, depending
Pinterest is huge, yeah.
Pinterest is huge, but like I just haven't given it the opportunity within tech, just because it's just not. Like
if I could go back in time, I would have used it as a growth channel as well. I think that would have been a difference between 12,000 signups and like 20,000.
That's fair. I definitely do want to do a little bit more. It's one of those things that's just been on the back burner for a while, where it's like I just want to dive into Pinterest, but I just haven't, because I see so many people that are getting like ridiculous organic reach through Pinterest. And I mean, for us, like it might be a channel where we can just even throw content up just to see if we can get clicks. Because I feel like Pinterest might be a little bit similar to TikTok, where it will show content to the people that it thinks needs to see that content. So I think it's definitely worth diving into at least a little bit.
A cool fun fact about Pinterest is I'm not going to say the guy's name just because I think the like actual numbers are pretty confidential. But he works in the fitness space and he uses Pinterest for top of funnel. And then that's his top of funnel. Then it sends them to his YouTube, where he offers like more fitness stuff. And then the last thing is like his like it's like a course, but not really a course. It's more so like training, right? It's like he offers it for free in an unstructured way on YouTube, but if you want it in a structured way every month, then you can pay him, and he does 1.5 a year.
That's incredible.
And
that is
Pinterest is top of funnel. Yeah.
No, that actually is a really, really good funnel structure. Because it's so much easier to get clicks. I think like honestly, if I was him, I would do something relatively similar, but I'd probably throw TikTok into that as well.
100%, yeah.
Or and also to that point, if you do that right, you could have some like VAs do like, it's like with like Pinterest, I feel like the content doesn't all have to be videos. It can honestly just be like, especially for fitness, it could be like 5 fitness tips on boom, 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 whatever, etc. that fits within your scope and your brand. And have a VA just kind of run Pinterest, just go ham on it, and then link essentially every single piece of content. So if it was like how to get a stronger back, right? How to work out your back at home. And then it has like 3 tips. It's like, watch this YouTube video for 5 more.
Yep.
Oh, great. Boom, YouTube video. And then that's how you're driving the traffic. And same thing with TikTok. With TikTok, you'd actually have to film that content to do that. So it'd be a little bit different. So yeah. Now let's see here. All right. Now for the bread and butter of what we've got going on. And if you have Fable up, Ryan, that'd be sweet to screen share it too. Because the site, if you can grab that, actually, I'll grab the site real quick. I dropped the link to Fable for anyone who's listening. It's onfable.com, ONFABLE. Make sure to check it out. Ryan, I want you to, do you want to screen share and show everybody who's here on Entre what it looks like and what we've got going on? Kind of like the landing page, because the landing page is sweet. And then also the product itself.
Yeah, so first I'll show you the website. So this can kind of give you a good idea of kind of what we're trying to build here. But basically, we realized that collaboration amongst teams is fragmented, and it's fragmented into 2 things: web apps and desktop apps. So whenever you're like building or you're trying to build asynchronously across the web, it often becomes, you lose a ton of contextual information. There's just like a ton of friction with it. So basically, like to start, like MVP, we're going to be offering 3 things like commenting, drawing, and tasking. So as you can see here, it's like the general concept of like commenting, tagging, then you have drawing, highlighting things, pencil, boom, underscoring. You can add to library, tag, and then tasking. So basically being able to create tasks anywhere. And the idea is like, this is like cool, but in practice it's really hard, because you're basically asking these people to use you're asking people to use like your tool instead of like all of the tools they already use. So we kind of view ourselves as like the glue, right? So you connect your custom backend, so your Slack, your Zoom, Jira, Notion, Gmail, Monday, all of these tools you already use. And then we provide that in a super lightweight front end that's sitting on your page. So just like this. And this is like 4 or 5, this is like 4 or 5 versions behind. So like this isn't definitely optimal, but like this is actually the Chrome extension right now.
And I want you to wait, Ryan, before you keep going, I want you to kind of give like an audio explanation real quick too. So people listening can, because I can see this and it's sweet. The way I would explain it is Ryan's going around on different web pages, clicking on a piece of content that the rest of his team needs to see or needs to use, and then assigning that to his team with a Chrome extension.
Yeah. So yeah, I can paint the picture, right? So you have this Chrome extension. It sits on the right side of your screen. And say you're, let's just say you start your day off, and you start your day off with all right, I'm going to go and do like a little bit of a competitive analysis on like this new competitor that we found. And so I go on their website and I find a couple things. I'm like, okay, you know what? This is really interesting. These sets of features are definitely something that we should look into and talk to our existing customers about. So you could drop a comment, tag like your co-founders, right? And it would notify them in Slack if you have like the Slack integration set up. So it notified them in Slack and it would say, Ryan tagged you in on this and it says this. And then they'd be able to click the link directly in Slack and it would take them to the website and the comment would show up live for them. And they'd be able to reply to the comment or like solve for that comment. And then you get that out of the way, right? And so then next year, you're actually on your own product and you're like trying to figure out like a specific feature or something. And you realize that there's a bug. You can quite literally click on what the problem is, create a new task, click whatever task management tool you have integrated. So like whenever you see here, like you have Trello here, you select the project and then you can assign that to your dev team, like directly on the page without ever leaving. You can like add a screenshot, add the location, all of those things. So like you can provide like really good contextual information for your dev team to like fix that problem without ever leaving like the page that you're trying to work on. Because like right now, if you were to do it, you're like hopping between tabs, right? You're like going from one tab, then you're like, oh, I need to like create this tab, like take the screenshot, upload the screenshot to like say Trello or whatever. So like there's like a ton of contextual information that is like hard, but there's also a lot of time lost in that collaboration process. So does that make sense?
No, that was spot on.
Cool.
And I think it looks super slick. And honestly, like I think there's a lot of teams, even beyond like product teams. I think you gave a good analogy. I even see this for like journalists as well, like them going on Twitter and seeing something, they could send it, like tag their whole team instead of sending the link into a Slack, right? Yeah. And things like that. Or there's so many applications that I honestly think you're just. I think you're gonna have like things. People are gonna find ways to use it that you didn't realize they would before.
Yeah, that's what we're excited about that because we're working with a bunch of teams, but like our beachheads, like definitely product teams, definitely. But yeah, Miriam, to answer your question, it does work on every page, like every web page. And one of our competitors, Cord, that's like their problem. They have like a pretty clean experience, but you can only use Cord with like the integration partners that they have, so like Crunchbase, Typeform, and like maybe a couple others. So like there's a ton of friction there. It's not like actually seamless, but this is on every page. So like whatever I'm working on. So like an example would be like right now, teams of any kind. Oh, amazing. Oh, why is it being goofy? Like I said, this is like 4 versions behind. So I don't, okay. Here, let's go on first.
See it in use.
So yeah. So like you can, we actually have a comment live on the page right now somewhere. But so say we wanted to drop a comment here, or like we're called first round for a reason. At Ryan, and like I said, like this is very different, but this is a couple of versions behind. Really like this. Let's change the copy on our site. Do something like this. Keep in mind, we've also built this in 4 weeks.
That's what I was also about to talk about too.
Yeah. So, but like, so anytime you're on this website, then whenever you come, like it's there, and like your team can come reply. It'll notify like your team in like the workspace that they're on. I'm currently not on workspace. Yeah. So you can see here, and like if you click this, it'll then take you to the comments. So you'll be able to see like past comments.
Pretty slick. I think it's a super cool tool, and definitely something that I'll be adding to my Chrome extension collection because I have.
Then you can hide them.
Yeah, I have so many.
But yeah, so that's it. And then, but like I said, the larger version or the larger picture is like being able to deploy all of the tools that you like use like via the web app every day, and like from our lightweight extension. So you'll be able to add and create custom tools, and they'll show up here, and you can control all of them. So yeah, so like here was an example. Like if you press like the U key, all of your team will show up, right? And then you can like call them, Slack them, whatever you need to, without ever leaving. But yeah, so this is kind of what we're rocking with right now.
Amazing. I wanna jump back to from the demo that our people who are going to be listening later aren't too sad they can't see how awesome it is. What?
Can I answer Miriam real quick?
Yeah.
Can we use it yet? Can it do it as a video? If I add multiple comments to a page, does it take them in order? It should, yeah. And Miriam, in terms of like usage, we literally just got accepted to the Chrome store like yesterday, like the first, but like the issue is this is the one, but it's like 4 versions behind. So we're currently waiting for them to approve our like new build, and then you can use it. Yeah, I can make sure you're like onboarded as one of the first 10 teams.
That's good.
Cool. Also, Mitch Williams, instead of using Linktree or whatever else, you should use this. We're launching a personal site builder for it in like a day. So sorry, I just had to plug that.
Plug it.
It's pretty
chewyai.com for anyone who's listening. Definitely make sure to plug it because there's another project Ryan's working on with one of our mutual friends, Column. So definitely check that out. But I wanted to dive a little bit back. So with Fable though, what is honestly I think it's a different growth strategy than maybe it's not. I don't know. Like what are you thinking for your growth strategies with this? And also does it change with it being a Chrome extension than like a typical SaaS product?
So yeah, growth strategy definitely different. We're not worried about growth at all. We think that it's like a product that will kind of grow itself. Right now it's pretty much like our only focus is like working with the teams that we have, like using it and like the dev version, and then like figuring out like the most value added use cases and like the most like what teams it brings the most value to. Like that's our only focus right now, and then we can kind of build accordingly. But right now, like a growth strategy would be pretty stupid of us because we don't really have like that archetype figured out yet, and we won't have it figured out until we like really know what we're like actually building, and that'll be probably in like 2 or 3 months. In terms of strategy after that, I mean, it's pretty much going to be like what we used to grow Placed, which was like what we were building with the 2 co-founders I used for this. Or not I used, but like I've built this with.
I should have touched on Placed a little bit more. If you actually let's backtrack a little bit before we get into this growth. I want you to touch on Placed, which is another company you started, which is what ended up growing into Fable, which we probably should have touched on a little bit.
We built it this summer. It was basically a hiring platform. So basically we would throw these demo days where anywhere from like seed to Series E companies backed by Y Combinator, A16Z, Sequoia, they would come and they would pitch executives and senior level talent from Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google on why they should leave their big time jobs to join like their mission. And so we would host these, and what we used to grow that was we built a LinkedIn scraper. We had built a LinkedIn scraper, and then we ended up not like using that for like long-term purposes, but we used the LinkedIn scraper to scrape. I scraped probably like 150,000 profiles from like senior and executive level FANG engineers. And like just like in terms of, or like, I mean, even Verizon, AT&T, places like that. But it worked really well. We ended up getting like an 87% open rate, 12% click through, and like I think like 4% conversion or something on like the emails that we actually sent and didn't get jarred from because we definitely like completely ruined our domain authority doing that. But yeah, we had like some really amazing companies, about $500 million worth of capital backed by like those investors that I mentioned. And then we had like 68 developers and like executives from Google, Facebook, like very, very large companies that like would come to these demo days during their lunch. It was really cool. It was a really cool experience. We also like try to move downstream. We had a partnership with Lambda School, like the boot camp, as well as like 8 other boot camps. But yeah, we kind of decided to get out of that through a series of events that I'm not going to cover.
So I wasn't sure how much you wanted to touch on that or not. So I wasn't. Yeah.
Our hearts were played with, basically.
In short, it wasn't as scalable as you had thought of a solution.
No, definitely not. I mean, it would have been so operationally intensive, and like for anybody that's familiar with the law of diminishing returns, like that is like the definition matches that perfectly.
100%. So basically, the reason we came back to this is because you said that you were going to use Fable, like your growth strategy for Fable once you get there. Because right now it's really just focused on product feedback, iterate, 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 product feedback, iterate, iterate, iterate.
Yeah.
Whenever it comes to actually growing and scaling, what does that look like? I'm assuming you're saying probably LinkedIn, product managers.
Yeah, so like we'll have that archetype knocked down, right? We'll know exactly who like we provide the most value to, but we'll be able to provide like extremely contextual use cases for those people, and then we'll just like I'll just scrape another like 100K emails, and we'll just go ham. But like this time we'll do it in a way where we don't completely demolish our domain authority.
That's definitely important, or else that's super important. I mean, maybe you just get like another domain, just rip it with that.
That's what we started doing last time.
that's the move. Honestly, we might have to rethink some of our outreach strategy too. Sean, if you're listening, yeah, you are. So no, that's definitely smart. And then I'm trying to think of anything else Fable related. I guess where do you want Fable to be in the next couple years? Like, I mean, it's a far thing to think about. There's no right answer, but what are you thinking?
I want it to be a name that anyone in tech knows about and uses. Similar to like Slack, right? I think it's extremely important, and I think it's how I view work, because like you can in my like head you can like silo work into two types of work. You have work that you can like fully automate with a tool like Zapier, and then you have work that still requires a human, but just because it requires you doesn't mean it should suck, and take a ton of time still, and like like issues with contextualizing information and things like that. And that's kind of where I see Fable falling in. You use Zapier for those tasks that can be fully automated, and then you use Fable for the rest of the work that you actually have to do. So that's kind of how I view it, as we build out integrations more and more and things like that.
It's a really slick product. I'm definitely honestly like as soon as it's on the Chrome store, definitely hopefully, or I mean, you said it's gonna be soon whenever you guys are updating.
It is on the Chrome store right now.
Yeah,
it's like a couple of versions behind, and like you have to like you go through our onboarding flow to actually be able to like log in.
Okay, yeah. So but you're already gonna send me everything whenever it's live and everything's
of course,
good to go, because I'm definitely gonna mess around with it, and I want to see how it works within Team Entre. And how it operates.
I would love to see that.
Then I have another question. I got two more questions for you before we wrap things up here. What founders are most inspirational to you? And I kind of want to answer this as like, just don't say Elon Musk or Steve Jobs. Don't say that. I want to think of someone who's like more, I guess reachable is a good word. I haven't asked this question to anybody before. I'm like, who do you actually see online and you're like, this guy or girl is just like a beast, and like, or it can be a VC, it doesn't have to be a founder. Who is someone that's inspirational?
It's a good question. I think two people that are pretty impressive are the Brex founders. Those are like, I think they started Brex whenever they were like like 19, 20. And they had built like I'm pretty sure it was like some sort of financial tech before that too that they sold. So they're like both very impressive people. And I'm pretty sure they went through at the very least, human capital invested in them. And human capital is like a very good fund. Another founder that I admire is Aaron LaBelle. She's in this room. No. All jokes aside, I actually do admire Aaron. He's like very, very thoughtful. And like, I've never met anyone that thinks before they speak, or like to the point that Aaron does. Like, he's very like calculated, and I appreciate that.
Based.
Huh?
He in the comments he said based. Like, yeah, no, I could see that. I could consider Aaron very.
I'm not even kidding. He's like, yeah, 100%.
I think there's a word that I love using that. So I told you I was visiting Colin over the weekend, and we talked about being intentional. And that word I think is so important, where you being intentional, not just with what you say, but like, what am I doing right now? Why is this important? Who am I hanging out with? I should be intentionally planning those things for not only myself, but to support other people. Like, that word intentional can be brought into a lot of different contexts. And I think that's an even better way to say than like, thinking before you speak. It's like intentionally saying what you want to, because it matters, because it has weight to it. But I think Aaron's definitely spot on with it.
No, I mean, he is. Yeah, no, he's an impressive person. I guess another person, and this will be the last one I say, is Ryan Breslow. He's like, I would look him up. He has a book on fundraising too. That's pretty good.
Ryan Breslow. I'll definitely plug him.
He's like 27, and he's founded like $2 billion companies already. It's crazy.
Same here.
I think that one of the company now is like a fast competitor, ironically. So I mean, like, but
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not bullish. We've talked about this before. We're not bullish on that space with Apple Pay, Google Pay, and then even just crypto. Now we've crypto and Web3. It's like, yeah, that's a whole nother topic, though. A whole other discussion within fintech.
That'd be interesting. That'd be an interesting pivot. One-click checkout with your crypto, like with your. I mean, it's kind of like MetaMask, right?
Yeah,
in a way. Yeah, but like, that'd be interesting.
There's a way to do it. Someone's gonna build it.
Yeah.
But to my last question, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I don't know if I would give myself any advice other than like maybe buy Bitcoin. The reason that I say that is because it's like things would have turned out differently if I would have, right? And like I'm like pretty, I wouldn't say content, but like I like the path and journey that I've been on so far, and I don't think I'd want to change that, because then I wouldn't. I feel like I wouldn't. I mean, I still might be me, but like I could be different, right? I don't know.
So literally, the only thing might just be buy Bitcoin. That's it.
Other than that, yeah, probably nothing. Or maybe just telling myself, or like, I probably would have told myself to start using Twitter sooner, actually, like to leverage that whenever I was like a freshman in college. Yeah, just because it's been like so like helpful for like my career and stuff. So
love that answer. No, 100%. Well, what time? We're coming up on time here. If anyone in the audience has any last questions for Ryan about Fable, no code, growth, community, honestly, anything, shoot it into the room chat. Otherwise, I think we're just going to wrap up here a little bit early. Ryan, I appreciate you popping on. Where can people find you on Entre, on Twitter, wherever, your email? What do we got?
Yeah, you can get me on Ryan on Entre.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, Ryan.
I took @Solly, by the way, for anyone who's listening.
Yeah.
I wanted @Solly.
Yeah, which I appreciate, because then I got @Ryan. But
Mm-hmm.
there, just Ryan Myher on Twitter, or Ryan@usefable.co, or no code, no problem. I mean, if you just go anywhere, I'm sure you can find me. You look up Ryan Myher. Yeah,
all over the place. We love it. So definitely reach out to Ryan if you want to learn more about the no-code space, learn about building products, Fable.
What's your BitClout token? I actually don't think I have a token. I'm pretty sure you have to like buy your own token first, right?
You do.
Yeah, no, because I've been spending actually a good amount of time on BitClout the last 48 hours.
Very timely.
Yeah, I don't have a token though. Yeah, I used to. Well, the reason I had a BitClout account, but then I'm pretty sure I lost the phrase that I needed to get back onto it. So I just created a new one recently, and yeah. So, but that's all right.
Happens to the best of us. But
yeah.
Alrighty. Well, on that note, I will let you go, but I appreciate and be cautious of our founders' time. For all of you incredible listeners, if you guys who are listening online, or maybe on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever, if you say, hey, I'm a Gen Z founder and I'm doing something cool I want to share, reach out to me @Solly or Ryan@joinentre.com, or maybe you know somebody that you think should be featured on the podcast. Let me know. I'm all ears and always looking for incredible people to bring on. So with that being said, I hope everyone here has a great rest of your night. We will catch you around, and peace.
See ya. Thanks, Solly.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Gen Z Talks. Make sure to connect with me and thousands of other entrepreneurs, investors, and creators over at joinentre.com. Or you can download our mobile app for both iOS and Android. Also, don't forget to follow us on social @joinentre.